I'm endlessly fascinated and curious about the world around us, about business, about politics, about the arts, about culture, developments, social issues, and the people. Most importantly, about the people that are shaping our future. Every night, I get the opportunity to have conversations, to dive into conversations with thought leaders, with change makers, entrepreneurs, politicians, and everyday heroes who unpack the ideas and stories that I think matter to all of us. What's the future of our economy? What's the future of our country? How do we build stronger communities? What can we learn from music, theater, sports, politics, the arts? How does policy shape our real lives? What does leadership look like, real leadership in today's environment? If it's interesting and relevant and topical and we're talking about it, you'll hear about it here at 6 o'clock on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I want to have real conversations, in-depth conversations. These are ideas we're sharing. This is the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Thanks for joining me. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got a really interesting gentleman to introduce you tonight. Gary Mitchell is his name. He is a law firm strategist and a business coach, and he is an author, four-time author. This is his fourth book, and it's called The And Approach, How to Grow Your Law Firm and Gain More Freedom. He's got a really interesting backstory involved in politics and coaching and communication that we're going to get into. But what he thinks, bottom line, is that really good lawyers make terrible business people, and that's what he wants to tell us all about. Gary Mitchell, welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks so much for having me, Brian. It's my pleasure.
My pleasure. So why are lawyers, good lawyers, bad business people?
Well, it's time, and now there's an exception to every statement, obviously, right? There have been very entrepreneurial lawyers that I've worked with in the past, but they are like unicorns, and it comes down to the mindset and the way a lawyer brain thinks. And this is not a criticism. I mean, this is why we hire lawyers, right? They're skeptical, critical. They have critical thinking. They're risk averse, perfectionists. They are often called in to prevent problems or fix problems, right? Those skill sets are diametrically opposed to those that make for a good business person or entrepreneur, which are more collaboration, flexibility, innovation, thinking about opportunities and the possibilities. I mean, any lawyer will admit, and even wears it as a badge of courage, these are the skills that are required to be a great lawyer. And that's why we hire them. The trouble is when they start to want to grow an actual business, when they're no longer working for someone else, they want to grow their own firm, they struggle with a number of those things. Letting go of control, which leads to inefficient delegating, trying to do it all on their own, lone wolf syndrome, because of their perfectionism and their difficulty in letting go of control, they want to just do it all themselves. The bottom line is, unless they let go of control, they will never grow. And so
Hold it.
Yeah,
can you repeat that, please?
Unless they let go of control, they will never grow.
Unless they let go of control, they'll never grow. That's a micromanagement, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's because of the perfectionism and the lack of trust in others, right? They know they've been doing it for a number of years. They know they have many times a senior lawyer, whether they be a law firm owner or at a large firm, a senior partner. They are convinced that the only person who can deal with their client is them. And so I have to show them strategies, which include bringing in and introducing their younger associates into that client relationship from the very beginning. They're growing their associate, giving the associate room for development, and they're giving the client confidence that it's not just them. They have a team around them, and that team is highly capable. It's not just that one lawyer.
Is there something about the personality of someone that wants to become a lawyer that creates that, or is it the culture of a law firm, or is it the demands of the law itself?
It's all of the above, Brian. It's a great question. So it starts with the personality traits, which we all have as human beings. We all have these traits, right? But I find that, like, if you could put a number to it, the average lawyer, if say perfectionism, I think we all have. I certainly do. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist as an author of 4 books. I mean, you have to let it go. Right? You can always go back and change a word or change a sentence. I mean, this is the way lawyers do it, right? We're writing up contracts. They can drive themselves crazy. These traits, I think lawyers are 10 times or to 100 times multiplied by the average human being. Okay. So, and again, it's what makes them great lawyers. Like these are not criticisms. As a coach, my job is to help them understand this and then bridge the gap over to learning and developing the skills that make them for great business people. Now, here's the thing. This is how I do it. Take delegation for an instance. Most of the time, the lawyer in question has done this task 1,000 times. It's automatic, right? So the mistake they make in the delegation is that they're too short in the instruction. They just run off the instruction to their associate and expect them to know how to do it like they've been doing it for 20 years, over 1,000 times. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two, they don't follow up. They're not proactive. Checking in, does the lawyer need assistance? Do they have any problem? Oftentimes the juniors, overwhelmed and feels that they would look weak if they go to the senior for advice and help. So there's a number of tactics and strategies that have been proven over the years that will help them get better at delegation, which will let the associate grow, and slowly but surely they can wean some of that control off because they'll have trust in the associate in their ability to do it as well as the partner does or close. The other thing is that I have to keep beating into their head as I've beaten into my own head over the years, Brian. Okay. I didn't come out, of college and I knew all this stuff. No, there's been a lot of bumps and bruises and scratches along the way to learn this. There is no such thing as perfection. Never, ever will we ever be perfect. Okay. Striving for excellence is a very excellent goal. And I certainly do and have throughout my life. So I help them understand that in growth, I'll use the Microsoft example. I use it in the book. Okay. If Microsoft had ever waited, still to this day, Outlook drives me crazy. I'm sure I'm not the only one on the planet, right? If Microsoft, one of the most successful companies in the history of humanity, had waited to perfect their software back in the 80s, they would never have been building up to where they are. There's an example. You get it out there. There's glitches. Come back. You look at it. You fix it. You get it out again. Constantly improving. Constantly getting better. And and then obviously lawyers need proof, right? So I can't just tell them, oh, you got to delegate, right? You got to delegate. I have to show them how to do it effectively so that it produces the results that will lead to them having trust and being able to let go of that control over time. There's a lot of psychology in this.
You say they have lone wolf tendencies. What are that?
Yeah. Well, that's the doing it all themselves, right? Rather than take a chance, go through the motions of delegating and then being disappointed, which often occurs. They're not delegating effectively. They'd rather do it themselves, even if it means working till 10 or 11 at night, no weekends, missing your son's soccer practice or your daughter's recital, missing weekends, missing vacations. They hold on to that perfection and control so tightly that they often give up parts of their life. And that's why I wrote this book. 20 years of witnessing carnage, right? These people are highly intelligent. They have one of the strongest work ethics I've ever known in my life. It's not like they're not hardworking, but they have to kind of let themselves go a little bit and ease up if they want to grow beyond themselves.
So explain that if you could, because you think about a lawyer, they're charging out at very high hourly rates. So working hard, working long hours makes sense. But if they don't get some juniors involved, all they're doing is selling their own hourly time. They're never actually creating an organization that's got some sustainability to it that can actually grow.
That's right. That's right. They're not really building a business. They're the most highly paid employee of their own. They've got an expensive job. So basically, the model that I show them, I nickname it the plug and play model. Okay, and it's nothing new, Ryan. It's McDonald's perfected this in the 60s, right? You get the right people in the right roles, have the right systems, processes, and templates, press play. That is the only way a lawyer running a law firm, growing a law firm, and any other entrepreneur for that matter, this isn't just lawyers, right? I know this from my own growth over the years. If I was trying to do this all on my own, there's no way. There's no way I'd have time to coach and be guests on podcasts and write the numerous articles I write, social posts. I couldn't do it all on my own. No one can. There is no self-made person. The old saying was self-made man, self-made person. It doesn't exist. We have to build teams around us. So I come from the approach of building around their strength. One of my favorite gurus, Steve Jobs. One of my favorite quotes: we don't hire smart people so we can tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they tell us what to do.
We don't hire smart people so we can tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. I worked for Jimmy Pattison, and Jimmy was an amazing individual. And he would start every meeting by asking everyone else around the room what they thought.
Yes.
He would never be the first person to speak. He would wait till the six guys who reported to him had their own point of view. And I asked him, and he says, why would I hire you all and pay you all good money if I didn't want to listen to what you had to say? Other leaders want to be the first person to speak, want to control the room, want to be the smartest person in the room, and want to constantly prove that they're the smartest person in the room.
That's right. And if you want to grow something beyond yourself, you have to let the ego go and trust that you have hired the right people. He's absolutely right. And this is one of the tactics in the book under running great meetings. You're always the last person to speak. Why would you be the first person and then intimidate everyone else? They're not going to give the real opinion. You want the real opinion, even if at first it differs from your own. Like I want in my own team, and I practice what I preach, Brian, I want people to challenge me, and they know they can, right? I don't micromanage. In front of my EA thanked me one day a couple months ago because she's part-time with me and part-time with another company. And she said, it's such a pleasure to work with you, Gary, because you don't micromanage me. My other employer does, and it's stifling. Of course it's stifling. I say, let them off the leash. Why did you hire them, right? If you want to stay solo, here's the thing, Brian, I'm not here to judge. If you want to stay solo, you want to have a one-man, one-person shop, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We all have different goals. But if you're seriously looking at or in the midst of growing a business, a viable business that will continue to grow with or without you, you must build a team around you.
So, Gary, one of the challenges I've run into is I've met and or worked with people that are similar to what you've described. And if you confront them that they're a micromanager, they wear that with pride. They like being, they see their self-image as being a micromanager.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes they do. I'll simply ask, because it's not a matter of I can cure everyone. I would never profess to say that. And any business coach that does say that is full of it. This is where, it has to come down to the individual has to, and this is a human trait again. Unfortunately, Brian, we have to reach a level of pain that's strong enough or deep enough that we are willing to change our habits, our approaches, the way we think, the way we act. That's the bottom line. So if a lawyer comes to me and they're looking to grow their firm and they're proud of the fact that everything comes through them, they put the final say, they are completely the bottleneck, which occurs 99% of the time. Well, then I'll ask them, okay, and you enjoy this. You enjoy being in the office till 10 o'clock at night, seeing your spouse in the morning briefly, maybe quick coffee, working weekends, again, missing your daughter's soccer practice or your son's softball game, missing those memories in life that you can never get back. If you're okay with that, then don't buy this book and don't call me for a consultation or engage me and hire me.
But I think it goes beyond what you're talking about. And I think what you're talking about is critically important. I think people have got to have some balance in life and have to enjoy life or should want to enjoy life. But I think it really comes down to this. Are you building an organization, a team, a company, a business that has got some sustainability to it, that is worth something more than just your time? If you want it to be just worth your time, then keep selling your time. As you say, you're just, you're buying yourself a job. You're an employee of your own demands. But if you want to build something that is of sustainable value that you can actually pass on, sell, charge and leverage so that you get, a percentage of the time of your associates effectively, you got to have a good organization, a good team, people that can execute without you.
You've just hit on another point that's critically important right now when you think of the demographics, right? The age group of the law firm owners right now, we're in the latter years of life, right? The baby boomers. And I've seen over the last 20 years, and I'm sure this, like, we're talking law because it's my sandbox. It's where I've been for 20 years. But I've also been an entrepreneur before that. I have many friends as entrepreneurs. These challenges are all the same no matter what industry or business we're talking about. When you're a one-man shop, you have people working for you. Everybody's billing on time. Things are not templated or systemized or whatever. You try and sell that business. What's it worth? It's not worth much. If somebody's looking to buy a business, they want turnkey. It's not just your book of business, the value of the clients and the revenue. You got to have a team. You got to have the systems and process that this person buying your business can walk in, follow the manual that you've created over the years, and take over seamlessly. But most lawyers end up walking away. 30 years, 35 years of their life, blood, sweat, and tears. And they have nothing to show for it at the end of their career because they didn't do this. So when I'm engaging with a client, it doesn't matter if they're 3 years in running a firm or 10 years in running a firm, I present or ask them from the very beginning, what's your end game? Do you see slowly weaning yourself off of this? Do you see yourself riding into the wild blue yonder for full retirement? Let's look at that. Let's look at your end game, right? Again, I'm not here to tell them what they should or shouldn't. I'm not going to even tell someone you should have balance. I won't. Maybe they don't want balance. I'm not going to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. I'm here to help them achieve what they ultimately want. Now, by the time someone comes to me and they're ready, either for the book or for actual one-on-one coaching, they have been in business long enough. They have had some success. They know what they know, and they know what they don't know, and they know they need help. They're past that, the growing pains stage, right? They're not startup, because startup, you have to get up, fall down, get up, fall down, get up, fall down until you learn what you don't know, right? So I don't work with startups. I work with business owners who, again, have reached a certain level of success, a ceiling, if you will, and understand that whatever help they get, they know they need help to take their firm to the next level.
But I think that's part of the problem, is that the individual was successful in a startup. That's where they got to where they are today. But they think that they need to use the exact same management skills, exact same leadership skills, exact same work skills through their whole career. And they can't
Right.
want to build, as you say, something sustainable. And I really believe that this has got applicability beyond just the law. It's got applicability in business.
Absolutely.
It's got applicability in
Yeah.
sports. It's got applicability in organizations and in politics. And I think that your backstory that we're going to get to in the next section, I think really speaks to that. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back in 2 minutes with Gary Mitchell, who's written a really interesting book and has got an interesting assessment of people, primarily lawyers, but I think it's, as we talked about, very applicable to lots of other areas of life, that people really just sell their own time, and they don't end up building an organization that is worth something more than just themselves. And I think that's a common problem people have, and Gary's dealt with it in a couple different areas of his life, and he's written a book about it. So we're going to take a break and come back, and we're going to try to expand this conversation. Fascinating. Stay with us, everyone. Back in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got author with us tonight that has written a really interesting book. Gary Mitchell is a strategist and a business coach. He's got a really interesting backstory that we're going to get into. The book is called The And Approach: How to Grow Your Law Firm and Gain More Freedom. And it's really quite interesting because Gary reveals, as we've talked about, why so many lawyers struggle on the business side of law and how to break free from perfectionism, overthinking, skepticism, and the lone wolf tendencies that can keep firms stuck. With clarity and empathy, Mitchell, through the powerful and mindset, helps readers retain the lawyer mind by strengthening right brain capabilities like creativity, leadership, and innovation. His meticulously laid out framework opens doors to possibilities that most lawyers never allow themselves to imagine. We're going to have to find out what the and approach is. But before we get there, Gary, can you take us back? I understand that you were born and raised in Mississauga. You went to Sheridan for music theater. You went into politics. Tell us a little bit about your backstory, if you could, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, growing up, would I ever have imagined myself an author? No. A business coach working with lawyers? Absolutely not. Um, but when I was reflecting back from early days, I always gravitated in school, I gravitated to studies that were around people, sociology, history, always engaged in politics, the arts. I mean, all of these things are about people. As you say, I did graduate Sheridan College for music theater. That was my first passion, singer, actor, and then later songwriter. I started my first business at 25, and I knew nothing. Like most entrepreneurs, I had an idea. It was fun. It was actually, I built the Great Canadian Karaoke Challenge in the early 90s, a national event that was in 9 provinces, 1 territory, garnered national media attention, including W5, which in Canada, I mean, that was like, even back then, that was like, the gold standard for getting the media. I'm like a typical entrepreneur. I would try things. If they failed, I would rework it. If they worked, I would continue doing it. That event brought me out to Vancouver, and I got back into politics.
You
Even
ran
more
for
so.
politics, I understand,
Well,
against
yes,
Teddy
over the
Fry
course.
in Vancouver Center.
I did. 2004. Again, growing up, Brian, I didn't really think I was myself as a masochist, but there I was in 2004 as an out gay conservative in one of the 2 most liberal ridings across the country, Vancouver Center. It was an amazing experience, having been involved, volunteering, campaigning for other candidates, completely engaged since my first election when I was 18, voting. I grew up kind of in a political family. We talked about things, we debated things. I always watched it. So it was really a once in a lifetime experience to do that. And that's what led me to this career, ironically.
Before you go there, I got to ask you, I apologize for interrupting, but Hetty
No
Fry is
problem.
dynamo. How did you compete with her? That must have been fun.
Uh, Interesting. Well, I do remember one debate where we had all 5 candidates at a debate. And I remember sitting next to Hetty Fry. And during the entire thing, she was doodling. That's all I can say. And that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, so that experience, well, there's just so many ways I could go with it. But I'm grateful for it. Stretched my skills and my thinking, my critical thinking, my on the spot. One time I ran for the Conservative Party in 2004, a newly formed party under the leadership of Stephen Harper with no environmental policy. My campaign manager books me on CBC News World live at 5 a.m. in Vancouver, going live to the east, debating the leader of the Green Party, just me and him. No environmental policy. I'm like, what are you thinking? You're throwing me to the wolves. I mean, experiences like that, you either like completely crumble or you have to grow, right? So I look back with fond memories. I made amazing connections, met amazing people, worked with amazing people on my team, the volunteers. It was an incredible experience.
Let me
More
ask you a
importantly,
question.
after
Let me
that,
ask you a question
yeah,
on that if I could, because you
yep.
mentioned it quickly. An out gay man, how does he feel comfortable within the Conservative Party?
Actually, there was no discomfort within the Conservative Party. The gay community absolutely lashed out at me.
Really, that's
Absolutely.
interesting.
Absolutely. The Conservative Party, it was like they were the ones who organized that media with the Green Party. Like they noticed that I knew the policy, I was articulate. They had no issue with me being gay whatsoever. Like it was completely the opposite of what you would expect. And now
But the
here's
gay
another
community
example.
objected to you
Oh,
running as a
absolutely.
conservative.
I'm not, you know what? There's too many negative stories about that. It was traumatic, to be honest, Brian. It was absolutely traumatic. And many of my friends, by the way, I met during that campaign when I was in gay bars campaigning. And here's an example of the and approach. Like one of the questions was posed to me all the time. How can you be gay and conservative? Well, gay has nothing to do with political affiliation. Nothing at all. Gay is a sexual orientation, right? It's not a political orientation. You can be this and that, and. It's just a mindset thing. Anyway, it was an experience, to say the least. Grateful for it, moved on. I found myself running a campaign for nomination for a lawyer in the same riding, the subsequent election. He won the nomination, and I ended up going on to be his campaign manager, coaching him on speaking, media, helping write his speeches. I was having the time of my life, and it was an aha moment in life. Instead of being the guy, now I'm the guy behind the guy, and watching the transformation of this other person because of some of the things. I don't take credit for all of it, obviously. Some of the things that I was giving him, the advice and direction, support, it was truly incredible. You know, you brought up Petty Fry. So in the last live debate, my candidate, live television debate, was the Thursday before the Monday election. He got the last word in and basically won the debate against a veteran political operative in Petty Fry. I was watching the TV in the studio, and couldn't be happier. I mean, I could imagine a parent when their son or daughter hits the winning run in softball, or gets a goal in soccer, or does a solo, or you know what I mean. It was incredible. I was hooked. Now, through this process, the candidate's best friend was also a lawyer, and suggested, after watching what I had done with this candidate, being highly intellectual, again, all the skills that make for a good lawyer, but not the soft skills, speaking, networking, building relationships with people. He suggested that the legal industry was in dire need of these skill sets for business, for marketing, for growing clientele, for managing, for leading, basically the business of law. After I picked my job off the pavement, we went for juice after a campaign meeting, I embarked on about 9 months of research in Canada and the US. And honestly, there was nothing going on as far as lawyer coaching in Canada, and very little in the US. In 2006, of course, business coaching was widely accepted in the corporate world. It had been since the 80s, but very definitely cutting edge in legal. So I was really a pioneer.
And that
serendipity would have that
that led to the writing of 4 books.
Well, that was the beginning. The serendipity would shine some light. The first chapter of the Legal Marketing Association outside of the United States was forming in Vancouver. And I went to the meeting. I networked with a number of veteran legal marketers. Some of them I'm still in touch with today as colleagues and friends. Within another month, I had my first client, who is one of the endorsements on the book cover, and will be hosting the Vancouver launch event at his law firm 20 years later.
So tell us, if you could, what is the AND approach? What's the AND framework?
So most of us, again, it's not just about lawyers. I'm glad you prefaced the strategies and approaches in this book can be widely used across all aspects of business and life, not just for lawyers. But when you think about it, I started out with the hardest our audience on the planet. That's why I go back to, I didn't realize I was out to be a masochist in my career. 20 years of working with lawyers, highly skeptical, critical, analytical, pessimistic, perfectionist, right? So they struggle with things, some things more than an average human being. I needed to show them that you can grow a successful law firm, or any business for that matter, and have freedom in your life if you start with intention. It's a mindset. It starts with mindset. It goes back to the very simple glass half full, glass half empty. Brian, I firmly believe from an early age that attitude plays 99% into everything. And I've seen it over and over in life and business. You can have the best marks, you can have the best CV, but a really poor attitude, and you're not going to last very long. You could have a B, average school education, and have the right attitude and thrive, because you will do the work. You have the work ethic. You will learn what you have to learn. You will work well with others. You will collaborate. You're a team player. So this is another extension of attitude. It starts with an and mindset. I can do this and do this. I'm in Mexico right now. I go to Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, in the winter, and I'm growing my business, launching the book, working on the app, recording podcasts, at the gym with my trainer. So I am getting into my best shape, living in my happy place, and growing my business.
So you can do two things at once effectively.
3 or 4, actually. For this book, it's, you can't do the and approach. Do this and.
But
There's so much you could put in a title.
how do you get these lawyers out of this mindset of, as you call it, the lone wolf syndrome, or what I call the micromanagement syndrome? How do you persuade them that the team approach is better? It's not a legal analogy or a legal story, but I was at a dinner
No.
the other night with a bunch of people. Someone had written a book about the SNC Lavalin case, and the issue between the minister, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, and the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the time. And he said the key there, you could comment a lot about Justin Trudeau, positive or negative, about his abilities as a prime minister. But this individual said the key problem was that he couldn't form a relationship with his cabinet ministers, with the team. He couldn't be the team player, and the breakdown of the relationship was the key problem there. And he was suggesting, I don't know whether this makes any sense, but that because of his background as a teacher, he was very lone wolf oriented, and
Yeah.
therefore a few trusted advisors, but not an organization like a party or a cabinet.
Yeah. So you're hitting the leadership issue right on the nail. First of all, I don't convince I don't convince lawyers to abandon the lone wolf syndrome. When they come to me, they have come to a realization. We talked about it in the first half. They've come to a pain point, which unfortunately, as human beings, we have to make any changes. So they've had enough of missing their children's events, missing the vacations, missing time with their spouse. They've had enough. They've reached a certain level of success. They know they probably could use some help to take away some of the pain. They're open to the possibilities of getting help. So I'd never convince a lawyer to go from lone wolf to building a business. They come to me when they've realized they've had enough of lone wolf. And not all of them will. And not all business owners will. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to build a solo shop, my father was self-employed. And I remember after starting my first business, I'm in my 20s in Toronto. I wanted to be king of the world. I wanted to build this huge, massive, big thing. And I asked him, I said, Dad, why didn't you follow the way of your colleagues? He was a graphic artist, and they had gone on to build 2 of the largest design houses in Toronto. And we always kept in touch through the years. And he got back to me and he said something very simple. He said, Gary, I love what I do, and I don't want to spend my time managing other people do what I love. Of course, I didn't understand it at 27, Brian. I was still wanting to build. But in my 40s, I got it. So again, I'm not here to criticize any business person, any law firm owner, any law practice owner. I work with those who have had enough. They recognize that being the bottleneck will not allow them to grow. The lone wolf syndrome, clinging onto control, not being able to build a team. So there you bring up leadership. Clearly, policy aside, not everyone is perfect. Justin Trudeau was not a great example of a leader. I don't care about his background. I would never, when people would put him down because he was a teacher. I was like, wait a minute. I had some amazing teachers throughout my life, and I would never judge someone's background as a teacher to disqualify them for any role, including prime minister. So I actually defended him in that way, but he did not have the leadership skills or take the wherewithal to learn them in his role. And that was his downfall, in my opinion. Having been studying leadership all these years, following politics, I know your show crosses over business, politics, and all that. So I was actually looking forward to coming on the show with you. I've been watching this stuff all my life, basically.
Have you seen a leader?
I find it. Sorry.
Sorry, apologize. Go on.
No, go ahead.
Have you seen a leader in politics or in business or in law that you think has all those skills that you admire and you think people should emulate?
There's 2 leaders, well, first of all, Steve Jobs in business. Yes, unfortunately, he is no longer with us. There's another quote I want to get in. It's very important because when you go back to my strategy of how I work with a law firm owner, I told you I work with them and their strength. I build from their strength. Steve Jobs also said, when it comes time to, reviewing your SWOT, which I always do, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, I am old enough to remember the old school of thought, which was pick up your socks with respect to your weaknesses. You got to fix those, right? Then Steve Jobs comes along and flips that upside down. No, you focus everything on your strengths. You become a master. I use the word Jedi in the book. You become a Jedi master at what your greatest strengths are. And then you systematically and strategically build your A team around you, filling in the gaps left by your weaknesses. What happens here, Brian, is that you're building from your own strength. You're building complementary skills around you. And those people that you're bringing on your team will do those tasks that you were fighting, that you were procrastinating on, that you will never improve on because you hate them. They'll do them 10 times faster and better than you will. It's a winning formula. Now then into the leadership aspect is not micromanaging. You used Jim Pattison as an example. Jim Pattison is a great Canadian example of a leader, a fantastic leader in business, using the example of how he runs meetings. He gets the input from all of his team members first. He's the last one to speak. Perfect example. Politically, I think our current prime minister is one that I am not a liberal. I never have been a liberal, but I am wishing him 100% success because I believe truly that he has taken the right approach. His new Canada Council for Trade that he just brought on. He brought on union leaders. He brought on former conservative leader, former conservative cabinet minister, business leaders. That's the same formula. You're building a team of strength around you. He doesn't have the experience in the unions. He doesn't have the experience running a company. He has the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England experience. There's a leader just demonstrating leadership because he's building a team around him, right? Barack Obama in the US from 2008 to 2016, he did the same thing. It wasn't about taking more control and squeezing out people. It was bringing in, building the tent, building.
Well, I think one of the most interesting
expertise.
things about Barack Obama was when he brought in Hillary Clinton, his main opponent, as
Exactly.
his Secretary of State, going back to the sort of the Lincoln team of rivals. And then there are other politicians that we know who wouldn't even talk to their former leadership rivals and would completely exclude them. And it comes back to haunt them big time in the future. I got to tell you, my first job after I graduated from my master's was with the Walt Disney Company. And Michael Eisner was the CEO at the time. And he ended up writing a book called Partners because it was interesting because Michael Eisner said he initially thought it was all about the lone wolf, all about leadership, all about him and his creativity and his capability. But then at Disney, he worked with a president by the name of Frank Wells and a CFO by the name of Gary Wilson. One brought a legal business framework, and the other one brought a financial discipline and analytical mindset to the table. And he said that threesome was the key to success. And it sort of goes to your comment about where was he? He knew he was incredibly smart, creative in coming up with the creative ideas. But sometimes he would lose money. Sometimes he would go way over budget. Sometimes he ended up being a flop. And Frank kept him in the discipline of being success. And he then went on to write a book where he studied a whole bunch of other companies, Microsoft, Apple, etc., where he found out that the people that were most successful, even Berkshire Hathaway, were Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, etc. That partnership ended up being the key. So how do you find your weaknesses? How do you, when you're a very successful individual, it's got to be difficult to identify your weaknesses and then find someone to come in and fill those weaknesses.
Actually, no. At human nature, it's harder to, when I'm doing a consultation, and this is proven fact, there's tons of research on it. We are much easier. We're much easier to share what our weaknesses are than our strengths. We are, especially in Canada, we tend to be more humble about what our strengths are. So it's actually, people rhyme off, well, this, and this is the weakness. And it's almost like pulling teeth for the strength. Remember, I'm dealing with highly intelligent people. And again, they've experienced enough success and I'm going to use the word over and over, and enough pain, by the time they reach me, they're pretty aware of their weaknesses. They're pretty aware of where they need help, right? My questions are always going to be, what's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? What are you most passionate about? What's the one thing you would get off your plate right now, this very moment? Take no restrictions. What are your goals? What's holding you back? There's a whole lot, like in a consultation, it isn't me selling anything or talking about what I do. It's getting to know them. And again, by the time they come to me, Brian, it's the process with working a business coach it's almost self-selective on the part of the client, right? It's not like, oh, what's this? It's no, by the time they come to me and we actually have a sit down, a very in-depth, deep dive, hour-long chat about where they are and where they want to get to and what's preventing them. It's a very honest conversation. Very honest.
What a fascinating conversation that we're having. I really appreciate it. And I think, as I mentioned, it has applicability way beyond just the legal profession. We're going to take a final break and come back with some concluding comments from our author guest, Gary Mitchell, in just 2 minutes, who's publishing a incredibly interesting book next month. Remind us, Gary, what the name of the book is.
The and capital approach, how to grow your law firm and gain more freedom.
Back in 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got a really interesting guest with us tonight. Gary Mitchell is his name. He's written a really interesting book called The And Approach, Retraining the Lawyer Mind, How to Grow Your Law Firm and Gain More Freedom. But as we've been talking about it, I think it's pretty clear that everything he's suggesting goes way beyond just lawyers. It's very applicable to a lot of different sectors of our society and people in life and frankly, just in life generally. Gary, off the top, you mentioned this politician lawyer that you worked with, and you said that you had to train him in the soft skills, how to get to meet people and network. How do you teach that?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, I have to go back to the fact how highly educated he was. He had double masters, geology and law. So really, really highly intellectual, book smart. For your older viewers and listeners, if you remember the series back in the 40s, I think it was the 40s, The Little Rascals, he reminded me of Alfalfa in appearance and like geeky, intellectual, and he was totally aware of this. So basically, I had to handhold him and walk him through speaking and networking and practice. But here's the thing. First of all, he was a sponge. Okay. Like giving him full credit. He knew he needed this. He knew he didn't know it. So he was a sponge. Second of all, these are highly intelligent people. They have never been given this kind of guidance before anywhere. Not in growing up, not in law school, not in articling, not as an associate. Never in their career have they been given this direction. So when you give highly intellectual people, smart people, the proper direction, guidance, and support, they learn very quickly. You'd be surprised.
But how? How do you teach them soft skills? Someone that,
I demonstrate.
A litigator, a lawyer, a perfectionist that you've talked about. How do they deal with people? How do you teach them to deal with people?
Well, I have tip sheets, strategies. We talk about it. We go over the scenarios. I try to demonstrate it as much as possible in my work with them, especially if I'm interacting with their team. So leadership skills, running a meeting, I will do what I'm suggesting, right? Doing a lot of demonstrating, having them practice it, come back with the thoughts, talk about it, talk about what worked, what didn't work. It's kind of like, I've worked with many personal fitness trainers throughout the years. It's kind of like the personal fitness training shows you the exercise, you do it, they correct you, you do it again, then you practice. It's like learning any skill, a musical instrument, a new language. You get instruction, you practice, you get further instruction to tweak, right? And practice.
So I used to do a little bit of political communication consulting myself. And one of the things that I did, and I'd be interested as to whether you think this makes any sense or not, is I'd line up 10 people in the campaign office or wherever, and we pretend that each one was behind a door. And what we would do is we take the candidate and we tell them to knock on the door and give the pitch. And to start with, we'd say, be, accepting, be nice. And then we'd get a little bit more problematic and then, objectional and then asking a tough question. And we'd practice this for a couple of hours. And I had so many candidates, even, people that had been candidates before, come back and say, I've never done that. No one ever trained me on knocking on doors and meeting people.
Brilliant.
And by
it's
going
brilliant.
through that experience, I learned a ton because I learned what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah. So I remember doing like speech. So I would write a speech. There would be a team of people that would be working on policy, making sure the policy was like party policy, and then tweaking it for the riding and the geographical location. We were in Vancouver. And then I would work with him individually, and he would say the speech. I would, like a director of a play, I would stop him, correct him over and over and over and over again. We did mock debates. That door knocking thing, I think that's brilliant, by the way, absolutely brilliant, because it gives people a real world, as close to a real world experience. And that's what we did. I try to do that as much as I can with the lawyers. Obviously, I work remotely. I'm not in the office with them, watching them. I do get that opportunity from time to time. But first of all, I love that exercise. And if I do ever run, because I actually didn't just run that campaign, I've run many nomination campaigns and coached many candidates since. I thoroughly love it. I absolutely love it. Again, it's just amazing to see someone else benefit from what I've learned, right? I mean, so it makes sense for all the bruises and scratches and bumps from all the mistakes I've made. Like, people don't buy my time, okay? It's not about how much time I spend with my clients. They're buying back their time, because they get the advantage of learning from 20 years of not only my mistakes, but all the mistakes of my clients. They don't have to go through that.
I do think, though, that teaching soft skills has got to be one of the most challenging things you can teach to someone that is,
I don't know. I will say this honestly. If I go back to those days and I had seen the entire 20-year future, I don't know that I would have done it, but I'm glad I didn't know what was ahead, because here we are 20 years later. I was just talking to my first client yesterday to set up the Vancouver launch, and we have to get together. He's King's Counsel now. It's 20 years later, and blah, blah, blah. It's like incredible what I've learned from this experience, right? Every client teaches me something new. Someone asked me recently, of course, I've had mentors, I've had coaches, I've had teachers. They're all acknowledged in the book, right, under acknowledgements. But my clients have taught me the most. They've taught me the most out of anyone or anything collectively, because I'm always having to listen to their challenge, listen to their need, listen to their scenario. Well, certain things are overlapping, and you've said it more than once, and I will say it again. The approaches and strategies that are laid out in this book are applicable across everything in life and business. So, Gary, I happen to have been a legal sandbox for 20 years, so it's written with my audience. But I hope other entrepreneurs get a chance to read it. It will benefit them. Who should buy this? Any lawyer that is in law, private practice, whether it be solo, at a firm, because they're applicable as well. Any entrepreneur and business person who wants to have a life, not just a business. I think, Gary, I want to buy a few books and give it away to a couple of people I know. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Business. Sorry, go ahead. I think I want to buy it for a couple of people I know. Remind us the name of the book. The And Approach: How to Grow a Law Firm and Gain More Freedom. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online, even from Vancouver or Puerto Vallarta, at www.saga960am.ca. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Gary. This was really fascinating. Really appreciate it.